Hello everyone, hope you are well. I wanted to continue on my legend series, and today I wanted to give one of the most graceful, stylish left-handed batsmen of all time, David Gower of England, who was also a well-known commentator. He was born April 1st, 1957 in Kent, in England, and he played first-class cricket for Leicestershire and also for Hampshire. And in all, he played 117 Test matches for England, and he scored 8,231 runs at an average of 44.25. And he scored 18 hundreds, and his highest was 215. And one-day matches, he played 114 matches, and he scored 3,170 runs, and he scored 800s, and his highest was 158. And in first class cricket, he scored more than 26,000 runs with 5,300 hundreds as well. So that was his career statistics. And David Gower was definitely one of the most graceful, elegant left-handed batsmen of all time. He was such a pure, sweet timer of the ball. I have seen him even play live because he retired in around 1993. So late 80s, early 90s, I've seen David Gower play, and he was such an elegant, stylish player. And he never looked like he was hitting a ball. I mean, he was such a sweet timer of the ball. He hardly ever looked like he was hitting a ball. Such elegance and grace that he had. Very few players have that element in them. I mean, Saeed Anwar comes to mind, someone who was an absolute good timer of the ball. Carl Hoop, I mean, a lot of people, but Dale Carr was in a class of his own. And he was captain of the English cricket team in the 1980s. He did captain in 1985 the Ashes series, and he won the Ashes for England 3-1. And he had an amazing series as well. I mean, he scored 732 runs at an average of more than 81, and England won 3-1. But he had some disappointing series. He had two 5-0 whitewashes versus West Indies. One was in 1984, the one that was known as the Black Wash, and another one, I think it was 1986, 86 or 87. So after those two 5-0 whitewashes, he was removed from his captaincy, and obviously Graham Gooch became the captain after that. And he had a strained relationship with Graham Gooch as well towards the end and even before that. And he was a prolific run scorer for Leicestershire and Hampshire as well. And in 1981, he was actually a Wisden cricketer of the Wisden cricketer of the year. And in 1984, I mean, I think it was 1984, he scored 1,418 runs in the season, and he had many seasons where he scored more than 1,000 runs in the season, which is like a real landmark. And by the way, he was one of the most capped players for England. I mean, he played 117 Test matches. I mean, at that time, he was one of the most capped players for England. And only Sir Jack Hobbs has scored more runs versus Australia than David Gower. I mean, David Gower actually scored 3,269 runs versus Australia. I mean, that is a lot of runs versus Australia, but obviously England do play a lot against Australia with the Ashes. But 3,269 runs is a hell of a lot of runs to score. So that is something he holds after Sir Jack Hobbs. Is the second highest scorer against Australia. And another thing, he did hold a world record for the most consecutive Test innings without a duck, and that was 119 innings. He went 119 consecutive Test innings without registering a duck, and that was a world record. So that is something in his name as well. And he was a very well-known commentator as well, a very soft-spoken, a very lovely commentator, I should say, not as animated as some of the other commentators that people know, but he was a very graceful commentator as well and very soft-spoken. And he was ambidextrous as well. I mean, he played hockey right-handed. I mean, and he even kicked right-handed, and he even used to play golf right-handed, and he used to write right-handed as well. So he's someone who was comfortable with both his hands. And he was also, there was once a controversy in 1991-92 series of Australia when they were playing a warm-up match against Queensland. After he got out, I mean, he took one of his teammates with him and he went for a ride, a plane ride, and he did that without telling the team, and that was a controversy, and he was fined like £1,000 at that time. But he was probably lucky to get away with just £1,000 fine at that time, because you don't normally do that. And that's seen as a very serious offense. I mean, when you just abandon your team and just go away like that during a tour. But that he did that once in that 91-92 series against Australia. And another thing, he was, I mean, as much as he was a graceful, elegant player, and everyone loved to watch him. I mean, when he had, I mean, if you had to watch a highlights package of David Gower, you would always love watching. It's almost like watching Brian Lara and Mark Wose, people like that. Such elegance that he had, and beautiful shots. And he was a really good driver of the back foot. I mean, he had all the shots. I've seen many of his clippings many times. Such a really beautiful, elegant, stylish player he was. But he was kind of a laid back batsman, I should say, and he was criticized many times for being a bit laid back, and that he almost gave the impression that he was not that serious. But once in an interview in 1995, he admitted that he wasn't always 100% on the ball, and he said he didn't have abilities like Ram Gooch to concentrate that hard, and that he had off games. So he admitted himself that, I mean, he never always focused 100% while he was batting, and he was someone who kind of played loose. But I mean, obviously, he was a prolific scorer with 8,231 runs. But he looked, I mean, he's one of those batsmen who always looked good when he played shots, looked like probably was going to play a big innings, and then he would just get out playing a kind of a loose shot. But every time he scored runs, it was always a joy to watch. And in his farewell first class match in 1993 against Essex, he scored a farewell century. He scored 134 versus Essex in his last farewell first class match. So that's a good thing that happened to David Gower. Not a lot of people have scored 100 in their last first class match. So that is something that he had, and probably rightly so. I mean, one of the most stylish players of all time. And Edgar probably could have easily achieved more runs. I mean, if he was more determined as a batsman. But you can't expect the best of all from batsmen. I mean, or players. I mean, some players have certain abilities. Some have that natural flair and elegance that David Gower have had, and some players really concentrate hard, and they are very tough, and they are very difficult to get out, like a fine example, Steve O. So you can't expect a player to have flair. I mean, there are players who have shown both of that, but I mean, you can't always expect players to have all qualities in them. So he can be excused for that. But I was just saying, I mean, he could have probably scored a lot more hundreds, definitely a lot more hundreds with the talent that he had. He was one of the most talented, natural, gifted stroke makers and batsmen that I've seen, and anyone has seen in cricket. I mean, such a graceful, I'm repeating, a very graceful, stylish. And normally left-handers are elegant, but David Gower, I mean, anyone who has watched him play, and the older generation people will definitely say David Gower as one of the best batsmen they have watched. He was so easy on the eye. So that is my video on David Gower. I mean, one of the greatest batsmen of all time, an absolute legend, and one of the greatest batsmen that England have produced, and someone who was absolutely beautiful to watch, and such a graceful, elegant, stylish batsman. Hope you have enjoyed this video. Please take care, and God bless you.